welcome everyone to another episode of Every Second Counts podcast. My name is Tom Ettinger, and joined with me today is Mr. Donald Dunn in the studio. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good, man. How's everybody going?
Everything's going good, man. For those that don't know, Donald Dunn is the host of Two Drunk Dudes in the Gun Room podcast. He runs a radio station. We're gonna get more into it, but I just gotta tell you, I was listening to the radio station today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. I heard a little Scotty in there. There
Okay.
was a
Yep.
couple. There were some artists I didn't know, but I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, I was jamming along with it.
Yeah. Well, May 1st, man, is we'll be fully into it. So we'll be licensed and everything, and at that point, then I'll be able to play just about anybody that's a veteran on there. So
Let's get into that. How do you go from doing a podcast yourself, retiring from the army, and then now doing the radio station? How did the radio station come about?
so to be honest, from the podcast, man. So when we started this podcast, we didn't really know where it was going to go, and we started it because we wasn't really getting anything out of the VFW. We wasn't really helping veterans there. It was just more of a place to go drink, and it was real clicky, you know. So we started this podcast and started bringing people on, and it just grew. And this year, you know, I decided, hey, we're going to start having more interviews because before it was only here and there, and man, I've had a lot of people on, and then we started having um, comedians and art, musicians on, and I was like, man, how come nobody hears about these guys?
Yeah.
And unless you're, I mean, the music is just amazing. That band that you was talking about earlier, it's their name is Van Taco, and their dad was a veteran, so and that's how they came onto the show. Paul Frey, his brother served with um, the other host that used to be on the show, and
Oh, okay.
so that's how I met him. And then Scotty and Shannon Book and man Brandon Johnston, the comedian. I mean, so I decided, I was sitting there thinking, the problems I had when I came into podcasting was it like reinforces how transitioning out of the military is. You go from the military where you're a hero, and then you walk into the civilian world where you're just another guy, and you don't really matter anymore. Well,
another
podcasting is like that too when you first start out, man, because
another veteran doing a podcast.
yeah, exactly. And even if it's not even just that, I mean, it gets demoralizing when you go on YouTube and you see, you're struggling to find people to subscribe, and then you come across the guy's stream that is called the sleeping streamer, and literally he goes to bed and he turns his camera on and records himself sleeping, and he has 30,000 followers. I mean, that's demoralizing that a guy sleeping can get more followers than
I
people that give a shit.
no,
So
I get that. I've seen that on TikTok and seen that like someone just standing in a field,
yeah.
a million likes, and it's like they're not doing anything. They're not saying anything. Nothing's happening here.
So I decided to come up with this radio station to give veterans a platform, man, and that's literally what it was. And we started having all these organizations on there, man, that um, do great things, but they just don't have the budget to be on every other hour on TV advertising.
Hmm.
So I decided, that's where they're going to come into this. I'm going to start making advertisements for them, and they're going to fill up time slots on there that we don't have any paid advertisers, and the music will be on there. The podcasts will be scheduled shows, from anybody that wants to be on. Anybody
Hmm.
that's a veteran that wants to be, that has a talk show or wants to start a comedy show or whatever, I'll create time slots, and then the other time slots around that will be all veteran artists. So that's where it came about, man. It was just a drinking and came up with an idea, and I'm just one of those guys that's too stupid to stop. So
No, I think it's something everyone always wanted, I've seen it, and we spoke about it, and I've been on it. But today I was out in the yard, and I just put it on, and I was just listening to it as it kept going and going, and I was like, you know what, this is something that everyone could listen to. It's very simple, it's very
yep,
simplistic, and you're listening to veterans. It's an
yep,
automatic give back.
yep.
You know what I mean?
That,
Like the way I look at it, it's like an automatic give back.
yeah, absolutely. So when I started this, so when I got out of the military, I had a business. I got out, couldn't find a job, so I created a job. I started out owning a trucking company, and
Hmm.
it slowly grew and everything, and then life took a change, and COVID hit, and trucking became harder, and my mom's health became worse, and I had to make a decision. I couldn't move her to Georgia to take care of her. I couldn't afford the freight anymore to go from Georgia to Iowa and back and forth. So I had kind of came to a crossroads, and
Hmm.
luckily this is after seeking some help, because I don't know what this decision would have been made at that point, but I was thinking a lot more clearer at the time. And my old first sergeant offered me a job here in Missouri,
Hmm.
and so I took it. I closed my business, and I moved my mom to Missouri, and my wife and kids and grandkids are still in Georgia. And I'll be here for until something happens. Then I'll move back with my family. But that's where the podcast came about. Was when I moved back here, and the radio station was just another add on.
Hmm. I think it's a freeing, it's like a free therapy. For me myself, it's like a freeing therapy, having either talking to yourself on here
Yep.
or talking to someone else, and
Yeah.
especially in the situation that you're in, being alone, family's over here, you're taking care of your mom, and I'm in a similar situation, not to where I have to be there yet all the
Hmm.
time, but similar situation coming down the road, and
Yep.
that's something that I guess a lot of people, you don't realize that situation until you're in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and everything else that's important or you think's important that's going on, all that kind of falls to the wayside. Do you think?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when that situation started out, I had a pretty good system. I would about every other month or so, I would stop in for the weekend and do the little honeydew list.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is that she needed. If a holiday was coming up, I'd go down to the basement and bring up her decorations for that upcoming holiday, so she didn't have to go down to the basement. And things was working good. And then you know things got a little bit worse, and it got to the point where somebody had to be there to help. So you know it kind of fell in. If you believe in God, which I do, I think He put that decision there for me because of the future. You look at the economy that's coming and everything else, and I don't know that I could have rode that wave out.
Yeah, you think it was, since you brought that up, you think that the your business and trucking would have suffered with COVID and everything?
I'm gonna tell you, man. So when COVID hit, I was pulling a flatbed, so it was mostly infrastructure equipment that I hauled,
Mm-hmm.
and being an owner operator. So we'll just talk a little bit about the finances. The truck payment was $646 a week, right? The trailer payment was $530 a month. Insurance $700. About $1,200 a week is what I was spending in fuel. So I mean, all this stuff really adds up, right?
It added
Well,
up extremely quickly.
yeah,
As soon as you started with the third number, I was like, "Whoo!"
yeah. So and I ran. probably about 2,500 to 3,000 miles a week, and I would stay out for about 6 weeks, and life was good. And then when COVID hit, well, our whole freight structure had to change because there was no infrastructure anymore. If you were in
Mm-hmm.
construction or building, it was shut down.
Oh
And
yeah.
so it was not uncommon, man. And this is what really hurt financially. When I would plan my week, I would on Friday I would have loads already lined up for Monday, the next load after that, and my final load for the week. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We would get to that customer, we'd pick up, maybe get a couple hundred miles, 300 or 400 miles away from where we picked up, and you'd get a phone call and says, "Hey, somebody at the plant you were going to just came positive for COVID. They're going to shut down. There's no, they're not receiving anything for the next 2 weeks." So I would have to turn around and take the load back to the place I picked it up.
Oh man.
But now I've lost those other 2 loads because I'm not going to be wherever it was to pick them up. So now I'm parked trying to find another load. Well, everybody does
Mm-hmm.
this. So, I mean, all the loads have pretty much been taken, and it got to the point where, we were loading boxes of toilet paper on flatbeds and tarping them because the only loads we could find was going to Walmart, and the dry vans couldn't keep up with the amount of toilet paper that had to be hauled to the
Yeah.
store.
I guess you really don't really think about the little details of how serious things got and how it affects the smallest kind of business to the biggest business.
Yeah.
Because they talked about, with people not being able to come out, people not traveling, people not going on vacation during COVID and all that, and then
Yeah.
just the everyday business of stocking and moving things, and it's crippling.
Yeah, it really is, and those payments don't stop. I mean, my
Mm.
fuel payment, my fuel costs went down, but it's because I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's the
you
one
know,
thing. You look back now and you're like, why didn't they just stop the payments?
yeah,
Everyone knew what was happening. Why don't we just stop the payments?
yeah. That part of COVID never hit. I guess they didn't have to be in the office to receive the checks. So
No, I'm telling you, man. So you spent a couple days in the army?
yeah, so I came in '94, and I retired in 2014, and I came in because I had gotten a family, and went down to Walmart and bought a family, and then um, found out I had to take care of them. So that's
It's
what that's why I
it,
came in.
you got to read the receipt sometimes because when you get that receipt and they circle it, you're like, I'll look at the survey.
Yeah,
They want the survey of the family.
yeah, absolutely, man. So I came in '94, and for the first year, well, almost 2 years, man, I never seen my wife. So I went to basic training, AIT,
Hmm.
and then to recovery school, and I'm like, okay, where am I going? I don't care where. I just don't want to go to Korea. Oh, well, you're going to Korea. So then I spent a year in Korea away from my wife,
Hmm.
you know, and I finally got, when I got orders to go to Fort Bliss after that, we finally got to live together again. And then instantly kids started popping up. So yeah.
So how you did a year in Korea?
Yeah, I did a year in Korea, and then went to Fort Bliss in 95,
Hmm.
96, 96.
Where's that at?
El Paso, Texas.
Oh wow, okay,
Yeah, nothing there.
nothing
Absolutely
there.
nothing. Some people love it. I absolutely did not. But as a matter of fact, I was going to get out of the army there. I really was. I kind of was still young and frustrated, and hadn't completely matured, I don't think, yet. And I was going to get out. But I hated Fort Bliss so bad that I didn't want to spend another 18 months there. So it was faster for me to re-enlist to leave than
Oh
it
wow,
was to stay
okay.
there in ETS.
It's always
So
that. It's always that way. I think that there's always something that you get a peek over the fence, and you're like,
yeah,
uh,
and that's when the army got better for me. So I went to Germany from there. I re-enlisted for Germany. I spent 3 years in bomb holder, and I was in the mechanized infantry. And man, I loved it. I did. Even though we were constantly in the field, and I was deployed while I was there for the first time, we went to Bosnia, and man, I absolutely loved it. I was out of the wire every day, doing missions, working with the scouts and combat engineers, and it was amazing. And then, like, this unknown thing happened to me that was like the turning point for my career. And
What happened?
so I went and talked to my branch manager, and there became a slot open for me to go to the 160th, which I hadn't even heard of them. And he told me about how the unit was, and you had to volunteer for it, and
Hmm.
you still had to go through selection and everything. So I went for it, and made it through Green Platoon is what they call it. Made it through selection, and that was, working in the special ops community is, if you ever get the opportunity to do it, man, it is amazing. I mean, the
Hmm.
the people you meet, the atmosphere, the attitude, it is completely different. And I am still friends with 90% of the people I served with in those 10 years. So I stayed there for 10 years. And I was there in the 101st, or in the Hunter Army Airfield. And man, I worked with some of the most professional people you'll ever meet. SEALs, Rangers, um, CIA, FBI, everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
just all these people that you think about, but most people don't ever get to work. I mean, they're just amazing people. The stuff they do is just not human. And
So is it typical, just to bounce back just a little bit, is it typical usually for the Army for the first termers to either go to Germany or Korea? Is that
um,
typical or?
yeah, so Korea is a very common first spot, right? So
Hmm.
especially after 9/11, man. So the Korean tours kind of slowed down, and your big divisions picked up. So a lot of people for their first terms was getting put in third ID and 101st and 82nd and 10th Mountain, because they were deploying nonstop. And so that was it. When I came in, it was like Korea was the primary place that everybody went. And then the divisions kind of filled up second. And then you would have that one guy, you're like, how in the hell I mean, whose dick did you suck to get that job? You know,
Yeah.
you know,
No, yeah, because I asked because there's a couple of guys that I knew that joined the army, and
mhm,
it's typical that, one went to Germany and then they swapped. One would go to Korea, and you just did that time, and then
yeah,
you always somehow you come back here. You either go to Hood or you go some. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like a typical, and the longer you're in the army, and I might be wrong, but the longer it seems like you're in the army, the less the more homesteading you could be.
Um, well, so yeah, in a way, right? Usually it's not voluntarily, right?
Hmm.
So it is not uncommon if you go to Fort Stewart and you get put in third ID that you'll be there for 2 to 3 years, and then you're going to come down on orders for an overseas assignment, maybe Hawaii. It might be someplace nice, Germany or whatever.
Hmm.
But I promise you, when you get orders again, you're coming right back to third ID. So
Mm.
it looks like, it's really easy to homestead, and it is in some aspects, but it's not always where you want to be.
It makes sense. There's always those bases.
Yeah.
Like
So
like for us, it's someone, you get stuck out in 29 Palms. That might be your Twilight tour. You might have fell in love with that place,
yeah,
and no one knows why, but that's the place you want to end your career at.
yeah. And it's the same way for the guys in 82nd. When they would
Hmm.
leave, a lot of times they get sent right back to division, and it starts all over again for them. And the other way too is the way I went. So you get put in a unit like the 160th. The regular army couldn't even see us. They didn't know how many of whatever MOSs, what ranks was there. and that's how I got to stay for 10 years. Just nobody wants to leave, and I mean, I
Hmm.
would have gave up rank to stay there. You know, it was that good of a life for me.
Where's that at exactly? What
Hunter
state?
Army Airfield, it's in Savannah, Georgia, is where it's at.
Is that trying to think. I think I've driven through Savannah, and it's just a beautiful town of just like you have the outside peach farms, I
Yep,
believe,
yeah, yep.
and then but the you have the inner town vibes. Like it didn't seem like a military town.
No, it's not. Hunter Army Airfield's real small. You know, they're part of Third ID, and
Hmm.
there's just a handful of soldiers that get there. You know, most people go to Fort Stewart, which is about 30 miles, no, about 50 miles from Hunter.
So the cool thing I could ask you is like when I joined the Marine Corps, it was right, it was a year before 9/11 and it was all that, but there was nothing going on.
Right.
So when you joined the Army, like we had you know, uh little conflict here and there.
Yeah,
But
nothing major.
so what was the what why join the Army?
So that's where so I was real close to my uncle, and that's where
Hmm.
he went into. And I was not close to my biological father, who was in the Navy. My grandpa, who raised me, was Army, so I think that's what brought me to it.
That makes sense. So the was it there a push at all or was it
No, no.
it
As a matter of fact, the Army recruiter was the only recruiter I talked to. So I seen some videos of being a Ranger, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. And
hmm
my dad talked me out of that. He told me, he said, if you're going to go in the Army, do something where you can have something when you get out. You know, so
now you retired though.
I did.
So I retired and the reason I bring that up is someone always tells you that. Someone always says, if you're going to do four, stay in or if you're going to do
Yeah.
something, make sure you have, something to do when you get out. But do you think that's good advice?
Um, Not for the Army. I think that's good advice for somebody that's going in the Air Force or the Navy, something like that, because the Army is so far behind in technology compared to the civilian counterparts
Hmm.
that when you get out, whatever you decide to do, you're still going to start at the bottom. You know, for me, it was a mechanic. I could go to a shop and they were still going to start me at the very entry level positions
Hmm.
because they know the caliber of mechanics and the technology we worked with was not to the same level of what you're doing in the civilian world. So,
Absolutely, because they're operating strictly on technology.
yeah, and
We're
we're
doing
operating on speed. You know,
preventive maintenance, or
change a bigger part because it's faster than tearing apart and rebuilding. You know,
hmm hmm
and that's so. And it's kind of funny. Later on down the road, I did have the opportunity to go to the Rangers, and I still, I always remember, I even all the way to retire. That's something I did want to do. But when I left the 160th, they had said that there was an opening for the motor sergeant position at the 75th, and they asked me if I'd be interested in it. You know, I was too old at that point to want to go to Ranger school. My mind was like, oh, that would be so awesome. And then my body was like, are you out of your damn mind?
I think that's that spark that never that eternal flame that never goes out. Because I still see some things, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go do that. But then,
Yeah.
when you get out of bed in the morning, after you get that full stretch in around 11, by the time you're feeling up to it, it's like, I don't know if I could do that anymore.
Yeah. 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 That's, you know, after 10 years, man, those 19-year-old kids, they don't get slower, they get faster. So,
Absolutely, yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. It's like, what was your run time? It was like, how do people run that fast?
yeah, absolutely, man.
So creating the podcast, I
Hmm.
know that could. there's a reason people create podcasts.
Yeah.
There's a purpose there, and I know for me it was driven. There was, there was a recollection that had to happen, an awakening to say, you know what,
Hmm.
this is what I need to do. And I feel people, and I'll say this like this, people in this community that push, mental health, veteran suicide, and veteran connection, and all that. When you have to create the energy for that,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because the VA don't have it. There's certain things here and there. There's not a input for that. And until I was on a podcast, I didn't know how big the community really is, but how small it is.
Yeah.
And it's so different between the levels
Yep.
to where people can go. What was the personal fuel, do you feel? Because you could have a podcast, a lot of people do it, like, maybe like nowadays, I would say some people might do it because it's the cool thing to do. Hey, look
Right.
at me. But the source and the purpose behind it, it doesn't match. There's no passion about it. They're worrying about clicks, they're worrying about numbers,
Yeah.
they're worrying about, and that when you're just worrying about a conversation,
Yeah.
you're just worrying about, breathing. I feel, you know, that could allow you. And you see, even on my own show, I'm over talking you. So, what's the energy? What's the energy that brought you? We spoke briefly on your show about it, but
Yeah.
what's the energy briefly about creating the show, but the personal drive behind it?
So I think podcasting becomes its own identity. It starts out as a child. So that answer kind of changes. As we came into this, we had one purpose, and we really didn't know what we were doing, like most people. When
Hmm.
you first start, and so the guy that helped me host this, he had a little group when they were in El Paso, and they would try to raise money for active duty soldiers to pay for their kids to go to motocross races, some of the bigger races,
Oh,
and they would
wow.
cover they would basically sponsor them and cover the entrance fee because there was a lot of races that the kids couldn't do because the parents just didn't have the money. And it's no secret, that soldiers don't make a whole lot of money. And so that was kind of when he came in. That's kind of where he wanted to continue it, was to highlight soldiers. And
Yeah.
so that's where it started. It started with us bringing our friends on, and then it turned into bringing organizations on, and it still kind of fit. It was more like the teenage years at that point. And
Hmm.
personally, I think for me, that's where I started changing. And I'm not going to say I got obsessed, but I got sick and tired of watching all these people out there making tons of money, and they don't have half the talent that our veteran community has.
Hmm.
And I ain't talking about just podcasting now. I'm talking about MMA fighting. I'm talking about comedy, musicians, whatever. And it's because we isolate ourselves. We as a community, we don't know who to talk to, how to get through to people. And so, we're not even a large voting community. I mean, that's why the government doesn't even pay attention to us, because there's stupid ass people out there that have a larger voting party that get the attention, and we're losing benefits, rights, and everything else. And I'm not trying to be political, but my point about it was that there's veterans out there. I mean, by now anybody that's seen your show and my show, that they all know about Scotty. I mean, the dude is amazing,
Hmm.
you know. And I would put him against 90% of civilians out there that have never served, that have had a break or have had money to advertise themselves to get known. But you add veterans to a community like that, and we're we're not even 1% now. We're less than 1% of the community. So
No,
that's where my drive came from.
no, I get it, and I like it because I think veterans with passion, they get pissed off, actually can make things happen. Like
Yeah,
I feel like if you're passionate about something and you're mad, that's something that's not just going to go away.
right.
And you know, being able to talk to people and being able to showcase talent that's not being shown anywhere else. And like you said, how do you everyone in Nashville's has a guitar.
Yep.
Everyone in the you know, everyone in the military now is getting out, and you know, everyone's looking for that break.
Yeah.
But and then when the person does get it, I listened to a podcast, and they were talking about you celebrate the person until they get to the expectation you thought they would get to,
Yeah.
and then you turn into hating them.
Yeah.
And I feel as veterans, we always want to support until it's like, well, why not me?
Yeah.
And I mean, and Scotty's just like that. Him, Schaefer, guys that have good talent, like
Yeah.
just natural good talent, and that are good, have to work 10 times harder because
Yeah.
they have a veteran stigma.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they talk about bad stigmas with mental health and all everything with that. But when, if you're a veteran, that's a whole other, you know, spectrum they put you in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're a
So
gun toting lunatic.
yeah, and just to prove that point, so the episode hasn't aired yet. I had Robin Phoenix. She's a stand-up comedian, veteran, and she was on the show, and she made a comment, that I really never even thought of. We were talking about, you know, comedians having to adjust to their audience. They bring in military stuff if they're performing at a VFW or something like that, and they more home based stuff and a little bit of veteran stuff if the majority's not. And she would talk about how she would go out on stage when she was opening up for people, and she would ask the question, "Hey, where's my veterans at? Army, Navy?" And what she was really doing was gauging the audience for the other acts so that
Hmm.
they knew how to adjust their shows, right? But she said when they started out, everybody was like, "Oh, you're not going to just do a lot of veteran stuff, are you?" And that they were basing her, because she was a veteran, it was like, "Oh, well, you probably only know jokes that veterans understand, so we probably can't book you." And they, just that stigma alone, it's kind of, I
Absolutely.
mean, it's kind of irritating to even think that that's a thing, but yeah.
And to say this, I laughed a little to myself because if if her material was strictly just veteran, like I could get into that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
to other vets who are normal veterans, like listen, the regular you served, you understand the puns and the bullshit. You get it now. You
Yeah.
know, while you served, it's like, oh, that was because of the game, and you know what I'm saying. You find out about boot camp, and
Yeah.
I think that would be a great show just off that.
It would, but the problem is your veteran community is only 1% of the population. So, you know, at
And
that
you're right.
point, your audience base, you're gonna suffer because it's a business too, and here's another thing that really shocks me, right? So the other thing that we do is we try to come up with events, 3 or 4 events a year. It's grown from one event to now we're up to trying to do 3 and 4, and we have an annual fish gigging trip that we bring as many veterans that want to go.
Where's this at?
It's in uh, what's the name of that little town? It's here in Missouri, but um, I lost the name of the town. But um,
You go fishing there?
so the way it works is it's sucker fish gigging. So they're bottom fish feeding fish, and you take it looks like a little fork. on a rod, and you gig them. That you go out at night with these bright lights, and the water's so clear you can see them swimming at the bottom.
Oh, so it's like spearfishing?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So there's an association here in Reynolds County, and they sponsor it. They'll come out there with 5 or 6 boats, and we'll take veterans out all night long.
What do you
And
guys
then
go out
after,
to like a sandbar kind of area?
yeah,
Or
it's the water's 4 or 5 foot deep at the most. In the deepest areas. It just depends on the rain and how the season was. But the season opens in October, so that's kind of the end of our events. We try to do an annual competition shoot. We wasn't able to do it this year because the guy sold the property that we used, so we got to find another location. But my point was we're trying to do where we take some veterans to the all the major games here, a Cardinals game, a Chiefs game, and a Blues hockey game, right? So here's my thoughts. My thoughts was, well, a
now
lot of these
before,
places will give tickets away on their Veterans Day, right? So I contacted the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. They do have a Veterans Appreciation Day. They don't have a military discount.
they
So
don't. That's
no.
wild.
So on that day, it's a theme day. That's what they call it. It's a theme day. So if I want a hat that has the branch of service that person served with, the ticket is $37 a piece. Or I could just get a regular ticket for $8 a piece. But then I wouldn't be able to sit in a veteran section where they appreciate the veteran. They appreciate you by charging you $30 more.
But you get a hat.
You get a hat, but it says St. Louis Cardinals, and it'll have the Army or Marine or Navy logo, whatever it is.
I mean, I get it. I get it, and I know the $8 seats. I know the $8 seats because I've been to games like that to where, we were doing training somewhere, and then it's like we got tickets, but they're all the way up there. So you
Yeah,
just proceed to drink and mosey around the whole damn place.
yeah, and that you know it was frustrating because I wanted to take like 15 people,
Yeah.
and I don't want it to be a drink fest where I'm taking a bunch of veterans that just get drunk because that's not the point. I get what my title, my name is, but that's
No,
about
no.
comedy. That's not the intent behind what we do.
No, I
And
think I think a veteran that hears it understands the camaraderie that comes with the
yeah,
venue and the point of it. Like the point of it. If you wanted to just stay home and get drunk, you could just stay at home.
yeah, you know, the main thing we were trying to do with these events is to bring veterans together. Network the veterans so they have more lifelines to to do. And that was also the point of the app that I created. You know, um, the app, the main reason why I created it was I wanted a way to where if somebody wanted to talk, they had access right there on their phone. You know, so on the app I put the WhatsApp or WhatsApp app or whatever it's called that Facebook uses, and I've had people use it, and I can hear it ring. It comes in like a text message, and I've laid in bed for a couple hours on a work night just talking to people, and so the point is all these little things, right? Is designed to help until an organization that we know can provide the real help, and that's where I came in. The other thing that shocked me, I don't know if you've heard of them, Operation Encore. Have you heard of them?
I have.
So, Guy, I was speaking with him about the radio station, and he said something to me that really shocked me, man. When he was talking to me about it, he said this is exactly what he's been looking for. He's been trying to find a radio station that would dedicate an hour to playing nothing but just veteran music. And everybody that he's talked to has told him no. And
Oh, of course, because it's about the money.
right. And at that time, like I said, I really didn't want this to turn into a business. I didn't, and I didn't want to have to deal with the financial side of owning another business, and I didn't want to have to deal with. I don't want to become a 501. I mean, there's nothing against the 501 community. It's just not for me, and I'm not good at that whole going around asking for money and stuff like that. Um, so I didn't want to go down that road either. I just wanted to create something to play veterans music, and it got complicated, man, quick. You
Yeah,
know, so
and that's as easy as calling the VA.
yeah,
Everything is so complicated, but it's the most simplistic thing,
right.
and
So
it should be the most wanted thing
I
if you
think
think about it.
the main reason why nothing moved forward with us is because I didn't I didn't wasn't planning on paying royalties or anything like that. What I was going to do was if anybody advertised on the radio station, that money was going to be split between the artists. That's where that money was going to go. And then the licensing hit me, and that's kind of what Guy was bringing up. He's like, if you're not paying royalties, there's licensing issues and stuff. And I'm like, man. So I was at another crossroads. Do I quit or do I go down a road I didn't really want to go down? But to see it through, that's the road I have to take. So I talked with BMI, and we're going to be licensed through them. So anybody that's under their umbrella will have the rights to play their music, and that's the road we're going, man. And then hopefully, I'm really hoping I can go back to Operation Encore and do that what they want is to dedicate time to or just their artists. I
Oh,
like the
absolutely.
Operation Encore crowd.
Yeah, that's incredible because that's veterans helping veterans,
Yeah,
and I think that's how it should be
yeah,
because I think as you sent me last night for the cross prop posting
hmm
that and I have to get on with and do it, but when that seems troubling amongst other groups, you think?
yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying before. There's people out there that all they care about is the likes. You know, what a lot of people don't know is everything up to this point, right? And it's funny because some of the civilians I worked with, when they first seen us doing this, you would hear people talking in the background. They'd be like, "Oh, well, they're not going to be working here long." People would be like, "Why?" Well, once that podcast starts making that money, they'll be gone. They're not going to stay here. And I just started laughing, man, because I don't make any money from podcasting. I spend money podcasting, you know,
Yeah.
and that's the behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know. I mean, I advertise. I have ads running nonstop on Facebook, three to four ads all month long. So I mean, I spend a couple $100 a month in just advertising the podcast,
Hmm.
and it isn't to make my podcast bigger. It's because I'm trying to highlight veterans, and I want them to be seen by more people, and that's the point behind. I get some of these people. They create these podcasts, and they want the advertising space, and they want the money that comes along with it. And they want to be that influencer, and they want to quit their job, but that's not what we're about. You know.
No, not at all. But I think having the opportunity for them to be able to showcase and show the veteran talent, I think it's incredible, and it should be accredited somehow. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Through something,
I agree.
because I feel with all the organizations, if you took all the veteran, you take all the all the nonprofits, all the profit ones, you take
Mhm.
all of them, they could probably do something.
So that comes up on a lot of my shows, right? And
Hmm.
I'm a firm believer in this. I don't, I don't pretend to be a counselor, a psychologist, or I'm a guy with a little bit of common sense, but the common sense tells me it's not the big programs that's going to save us, our community. It's not. The VA cannot save everybody. You know, the program's too spread. Think of it like a safety net that's got some big holes in it. And all these mom and pop organizations that are underneath it, that's what's going to save the community. Um, People like um, the guitars for vets and
Mm-hmm.
um, doing mission missionary out. I can't. I fucked up their name too, but they
Oh, Deuce.
yeah, Deuce. You know, it's those types of people that are going to save the community.
And
And
I'll tell you what, the biggest part, and I think it was probably the coolest thing. I went through the Mission 22 thing,
mhm,
like I talked about on your show, but I went through their links, and then I started seeing more, and then you see, Deuces and
yeah,
all these outside primal go out and do it, and if you're a veteran, it's free, and it's just like I feel like a piece of shit because I haven't gone, but like I want to go, and
yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing that hurts veterans. Well, it hurts me is I'm hesitant to pull the trigger because
yeah,
I'm from an environment when it's fucking go. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it.
yeah,
Or procrastination will kill you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think and I feel that we have to be able to do it all together.
yeah. And that's so the big problems like homelessness and substance abuse and the mental health crisis. It's not just veterans, in my opinion. It's American wide right now. Um, those types of things, right, are are ginormous problems, and nobody wants to fix it as far as like the big agencies because they know what it's going to take, and there's no money to be made there, and you can't just house homeless. You can build a million tiny homes and put homeless veterans in it, but if you don't fix why they were homeless to begin with, you didn't fix anything.
Just keep preaching. I'm not even gonna say nothing.
You
Just
know,
keep just keep saying what you got to say because you're 100% correct.
and that's and I so where I started talking about this, we had Brad Borders on our show from Purple Heart Homes, and that's one thing that they do. They're licensed to build tiny homes. They build them and then they donate them to homeless shelters, right? But his big goal is to have a community, and supposedly they're trying this out in Kansas City. There's a homeless veteran village where it's all tiny homes, but there's psychiatrists there. There's people there to help with, and you're going to have all these agencies interlinked to deal with the substance abuse, the trauma, the reason why they're homeless to begin with, and then the little things that nobody thinks about. How many homeless people do you think are walking around with their birth certificate, their driver's license, and proof of residency? And so
Their last 2 years of taxes.
yeah, and I ran into this with my brother. My brother is homeless off and on all the time, right? And I don't know how many times I've had to help him try to get his license. And for somebody that's not on drugs, it will drive you to be on drugs when you start dealing with these agencies, because you walk in and you try to get him an ID, and he doesn't have his birth certificate, he doesn't have a social security card, and they're like, well, if you don't have any of those, we can't give you an ID. But guess what? If you don't have an ID, now you're breaking the law because you don't have any form of ID. And
Man, you know how many times I did that on for recruit duty? You would
oh
have a
yeah,
kid, you'd have a kid with a school ID, and you're like, "Where's your birth certificate? Where's your social security card?
yeah,
Where's Do you have a report card?" And they're like, "I don't have anything." Do you get mail? Like, if you don't have these documents, like you're saying, you don't exist in the
yep,
real world.
yep,
You might be able to exist locally, but
yeah,
you can't get nothing done without
Yeah.
a social, without an ID, without these documents, birth certificate, but you need one of them to get one of them.
Yeah.
You can't get a birth certificate without an ID, but you can't get an ID without a birth certificate. It's so crazy
Yeah.
how hard it is just to get your own documents,
Yeah.
and the wait time and how much it costs. And it's like, well, it's mine. What the hell? I remember I should start calling these kids. I spent a couple bucks getting socials and
Oh
birth
yeah.
certificates done.
Yeah.
And just like you said, and these veterans, you think they got their DD 214 sitting in their pocket? You
Oh
know what I
no.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think I'm gonna hit you with a question I've been thinking about the whole time. Do you think it's done on purpose? How everything is done on purpose. Now, like I told you earlier, I'm trying to change things up how I do things, and it's like we don't talk about the like people. We could talk about push-ups, fucking trying to raise
Yeah.
awareness, but the way the government is set up right now, it's set up for people to fail, and it looks like the VA was the starting point. Now I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but when you look at the facts, it's the same in urban communities. It's the same in big cities. The VA community is the same way. Let's
Yeah.
make the buildings as small as we can. Let's make the facilities, unreachable to try to get in contact with people. And it has nothing to do with the VA personnel.
No, I think, and like you said, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy either, but there's some truth to what you're saying. But I think it's for a different reason. So we have allowed our government to get so big. There's now a program for programs. I mean, that's literally, and all these programs take money.
Another binder.
Yeah, and we've got a panel to judge a panel to operate a. So, I mean, and all these people are getting paychecks and everything. So when you look at the budget, I mean, it ain't no secret how many years has the government shut down because they can't balance the damn books. I mean, and so you
and
start taking
if you
programs like that, you're still from them. You know, the
it,
VA needs this amount of money, but everything they put into it there's nothing coming out of this. You know what I'm saying? You can
I'm gonna
help all the veterans in the world. That's not going to increase the amount of tax money you get.
I'm gonna start protesting here in the state. I'm gonna start here in Arkansas. I'm gonna start looking up all the regulations and what they're actually doing, because we just got Huckabee Sanders, and already they're raising teachers' prices. They're talking about doing like they did in Florida, no license for concealed carry. Like they're doing things differently here,
Mm-hmm.
and regardless of the changes need to be made, and I want to see how it's currently being done, because for me, there's only two VA places, and they're both 2 hours apart,
Yeah,
and when you make appointments, they're months apart.
yeah,
And when you're there, I mean, you've been when you look at it, there's stages. When you go to the VA, you're still dealing with, for those that go to VA, places, you're still dealing with Vietnam guys, vets that are there.
yeah,
And I'm sitting there like I'm 2 years out, and I'm like, I'm still new. And these guys, these guys been here 40 years. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so I think it has to be changed statewide
yeah.
before it gets changed government wise, because governors can change things, but federally, I think we're veterans don't exist federally.
So think about this, right? You have all these lobbyists out there that are fighting for uh, the big thing while I was in was gay rights, and now it's transgender rights, and you got a whole bunch of little organizations out there, right? That fight that you don't really hear about. They're not as outspoken. But start thinking to yourself about how many lobbyists for veterans there is, and there's only a couple.
Well, there's a bunch of congressmen that are veterans that don't do jack for
Yeah.
veterans.
Well, and you have to ask yourself about that too. I mean, that was a check the block thing for them to do to be part of their path. So they came in, they were put in positions of not danger. You know, it wasn't like Pat Tillman where he gave up millions of dollars to be a veteran and was put on the front lines of a Ranger battalion. Now these guys are pilots or some officer, you know,
Hmm.
that they served, and then they over, share and over exaggerate what they really did on their political trails. But then there's no brotherhood between them, because they weren't real,
Yeah,
and
you
that's
know
just my
what?
opinion.
No, I'm glad you said that because when you think about it, all the podcasts I've been on, not like I've been on a lot, but even when I never had to tell anyone what rank I was, obviously I was in a 20, but like there's no one really gave a shit what I did when I was in,
Yeah,
but that's the stigma that's pushed while you're in.
right,
And when you get out, only if you kiss the ring while you were in does
right,
the ring is that door open for you.
right. And
Because
and it the officer world in the military has become real political, anyways. I mean, when you think about how many soldiers' lives were lost so somebody could get promoted, and I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That is a fact. I've seen it. I have seen these high ranking officers volunteer for an early deployment to get as many deployments under their belt to give them a better resume when they're going against their peers. And that's why Third ID and all these, where we just kept deploying, kept deploying, kept deploying, you know. And they say you're going to get a year off, but you don't. You come back. I was in the Army for 20 years, almost to the day 20 years, right? And I did 68 months in deployments. That doesn't include the training time away from my family. That doesn't include the year in Korea. That's 68 months with a rifle in my hand out of 20 years.
I think, and I was listening to another podcast. There's a guy on talking, and he broke it down to other people, and I knew it, but and you'll make sense of it too. But the public and people that maybe didn't deploy or whatever, I'm not you. You know what I'm saying? I did my little stint in Afghanistan, but there's people that they don't understand the training cycle to prepare to even
Yeah,
deploy. Because when I was in Afghanistan, there had Army guys there and Guard guys there, and that's when they were still doing a year, and that was in
yeah,
'04. And I know that was in '04, but I know it only got better. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It only got more. It only got bigger, and these guys were doing a year, and they were in the Guard, and
yeah,
I couldn't process that. I mean, I could process it then, like, yeah, whatever, you know, but I think about that now, and it's like that dude had a normal job. I put people in the
yeah.
reserves, like, and now you're in Afghanistan for a year.
Taking a
That's
pay cut.
scary. Absolutely, and you're there.
Yeah. You know how many um, National Guardists lost their business because they were owner operators for truck drivers, and their household lived on that money that they made at the time, which was
Hmm.
really good for truckers. And then they deployed, but they're an E4, and now the truck's barely breaking even because he's got to pay somebody to drive it just to cover the bills. And that household, that family has to live on E4 pay. And a lot of people don't think about that sacrifice.
No, and especially the active duty people now, like inflation. I mean, I'm blessed to think now, like I could only imagine how hard it would be, still serving in the Marine Corps and having to, because there's no rank at the gas pump.
Oh, yeah.
There's no rank at at getting groceries, and as much as I know, everyone in the military got damn kids. So
Yeah.
like it's just an environment of just pure chaos.
Yeah.
And there's such a bubble of confusion of what's going on active duty wise. Like for me looking in, the change, like you said, the mental health change,
Hmm.
I could only imagine them kicking me out a year after I retired, them telling me I couldn't retire because I didn't get the shot.
Oh yeah.
Let's say like that, but that happened.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I can't imagine now. Strategically, I know where I was at. I would have got the damn shot, and I know all these other people would have got it in their positions. They're trying to get their high three. They're
Hmm.
working out there, but these people that got thrown out, they have a less of a chance if they did 4 years or 3 years or 2 years, because I don't even know, if they're pulling them back in, if they're, back pay. They talked about all these things, but they only talked about it when they were kicking them out.
There should be a class action lawsuit for that shit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they should have to pay them for the rest of their career that they didn't have. I really do. And
Yeah.
you know, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against anybody that took the shot or the ones that don't take the shot, right? And I've said this before on other shows. If we were talking about a type of vaccine like what me and you took when we came in, where it was a live vaccine, even the anthrax virus was a live vaccine,
Hmm.
but we were the only country that with the coronavirus took a different route and used a untested variation to do the vaccine. So at that point, it does make me decide, do I want to? And we're talking about soldiers. They're young enough to still have families. There's no there's no data on there that could talk about birth defects that's going to happen because of that shot. I mean, it ain't been around long enough to even think about that.
While you were in, would you have gotten it?
I would have.
See, that's my whole thought process, because we're institutionalized.
Yeah.
Is it
So
because they weren't in long enough? Because I felt a
yeah,
certain way when it happened, and then I feel both sides now.
yeah. I,
If get it or not, I get it, but to me, it's like I didn't have a choice. Anthrax shot burned. You
yeah.
know what I
All
mean?
seven of them.
Yeah. So it's like you would get all these shots, and it was like, all right, I don't know how to spell that shot, but all right, good to go.
Yeah.
But I don't remember anyone denying. Like I remember you could not get the flu shot, but I remember I always got a flu shot because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. I didn't. We didn't get a choice for the flu shot either.
There was a captain that said, "Hey, you're on the list. Go get your shot." And I said, "Roger that." That was it. That was the
Yeah.
conversation.
Yep.
I
And
couldn't. Go ahead.
I think the reason why you're seeing that and the difference is the military in general. I don't care what we're talking about. The military in general has changed to a softer cider military. So when we came in there, you didn't get to think. You
You
did
didn't
what
have
you're
an
told.
opinion.
Huh?
You didn't have an opinion.
No.
No,
You
no
you if
options.
you wanted to question what happened, you better do it after it was executed. Meaning you accomplish the mission, then you come back and say, well, why didn't we do it this way?
Why did I get the shot? Because I told you
Yeah. Yeah.
to. Why did I get the shot? Because I told you to. All right, Roger that.
Yeah. Well, now I
Like,
understand.
but I mean, they kicked thousands of people out.
Hmm.
And to me, I mean, I know it was a handful to some people, but like to the Marine Corps, you kick 3,000 people out. That's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Like so, like I just think, you know when you're in the position to have that voice, to be able to have the podcast and share your views and voice and your career with others, how does that help you?
Um, I will tell you, I don't know as far as it helps me as far as therapy. I mean, podcasting has helped me talk about some of the things that I went through that I didn't used to talk about. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons why I started writing a book, because my kids they want to know why they lived with the asshole they lived with. And I never felt comfortable telling them about the things I went through. And towards the end of my career, it got bad. I mean, I mean, I did some really fucked up things, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I threw my son out of the house the day after a hurricane, and I just, I know they didn't understand it, and I didn't understand it at the time, and this was the breaking point before where I finally went and got help. My wife had to split me and him up because I was going to hit him over
Mm-hmm.
him not listening to his mom. That's what it was over. At least that's what the fight was over. But that's not what was going on with me. So in this house, we were cooped up for a couple days with his girlfriend, her mom, her sister, my cousin, my brother, my wife, all were in my home.
I, I,
And
I think no matter what you're gonna say, I would feel the same way.
yeah,
Just all
before,
the people in the house, just you're just listening, and I was getting anxiety, just
yeah,
getting mad, just hearing how many people were there.
I can still remember to this day. So I went for a walk trying to get rid of this feeling, because when that feeling comes, man, I explain it. It's like a fire inside me, man.
Hmm.
And as it just starts cooking and cooking and cooking, I stop thinking, and I lose it. And that's the one day of my life, man. I wish I could have that day back. There's not too many days out there, but that's one day I do wish I could have that day back.
Are you glad that day happened now?
I'm not glad that day happened. I'm glad that I got help, and
But that situation had to happen, you think?
it did.
Because I feel everyone, I had a situation, I think everyone goes through something, and you have to, because no one says anything, but that's why we have to get there before that.
Yeah.
But that pot's always boiling.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
feel
Yeah.
for a lot of people that pot's always boiling, especially, I mean, you did over 5 years just deployments.
Yeah.
Like that's, for people that don't know, that's like almost 10 years because of the deployments. I mean, the workups in between.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You get on average, you know, 3 months every 2 years to be with your family. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You're there for the evenings, but
Hmm.
you're not there. I mean, you're focusing, especially as a leader, on everything you got to do for the next day. But the first 3 months that you come back from a deployment, they dedicate towards your family time, and then that train starts all aboard, and it's back to train, 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 and then you're deployed, and then there's a whole nother year you're not with your family. So
So then you're trying to rebuild a relationship. You're trying to do it, and then for 3 months it's solid, and then ripped away again.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
I agree with you, because I think it's easy for people to look at it and see, um, there's a broken down of communication when you're not home.
oh yeah,
You could still talk. When I deployed, we only have phone cards and whatnot. But
yeah,
like even people today, if you're dealing with anything, if you're just texting and there's not much communication as far as talking
right.
face to face, there's so much emotions missing. There's so much. So that I think that gets lost.
Let me kind of try to paint a picture of how fucked up it was for me, because when I walked away from the military, and I just recently started talking about this. So when I retired and I was transitioning out, I really wasn't looking for a job. I kind of was looking, but I really wasn't looking because I had planned on killing myself. I was putting things in place to end my life and make sure my family was taken care of, because I didn't like who I had became. I would come home and I would eat with my family, and then I would get up and go to the bedroom, and I would stay there until the next day. I literally pushed my family away. I fought
Mm-hmm.
with my kids. I fought with anybody that wanted to fight. Um, until that day came is when I
Mm-hmm.
finally got help. My wife knew I was struggling. The first 2 years of my deployments, I went through some things that really fucked me up, and I didn't realize it. I thought it was normal for me to have these nightmares and these dreams. My wife quit sleeping with me. She
Mm-hmm.
slept on the couch. I slept in the bed because I was elbowing her and hitting her and yelling and screaming and shit. And it took a couple years for that to, as the war kind of, I call it, calmed down, because
Mm-hmm.
it did. Um, it took a couple years before we started sleeping back together again, and I just chalked that up as that's normal. I didn't need to
Yeah.
get help. That's what you do. And then I walked away, and my wife kind of seen the signs that what I was doing, and then that fight came with my son. So I didn't think that I was the fucked up one. I thought everybody else was fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that wholeheartedly. I wasn't the. I was pushing everybody away. My family, my kids, my friends, and to this day, I don't have a whole lot of friends. I have a few people that I associate with, and I still haven't got to that point where I want to be surrounded by a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think it's and thank you for sharing that. I think it's something everyone always thinks about, and I think I would say it's something that's hard to deal with yourself because it's not something you want to talk to no one about.
Yeah,
That you would and you want to maybe, but it's hard. You can't express it
yeah,
because it's like you want to. It can only come out screaming. It could
yeah,
only come out with the same rage energy that's I feel that's built inside with it.
yeah. And so, it wasn't until recently, like this whole time, until after the military, my wife didn't know anything about what was going on. I didn't remember most of my dreams. She would say
Hmm.
that I was elbowing and yelling and shit, but I honest to God, I couldn't remember what a lot of them were about. There was a few that I did remember. And I would always ask her, what was I saying? She said it sounded like you were yelling at a soldier and then you were yelling no. So I kind of made sure she didn't know anything that was really going on. And I don't know, I started drinking a lot more, man. And as I would drink a lot, things would slip out. And, she found out a lot of the dreams. I was in a helicopter that was coming back from Bagram, and it was a fucked up situation from the get go. We were in
Hmm.
Germany. We flew back to Bagram, and our base was in Kandahar. And they couldn't get any flights because the war had all shifted up north. So all the supplies was headed to Bagram, and so we decided we'd fly to Bagram in our helicopters from the 160th. Would come and get us and fly us back down to Kandahar. Well, um, the one I was on um, decided to have a fuel issue, and gravity took over, and down it went. And we didn't crash. We hit hard enough that it broke the landing gear and shit. But I didn't have any weapons. I didn't have anything. I remember to this day. I remember looking out the window because the windows had already been shot out for most of the other missions, and I remember looking out the window, and my sergeant major was next to me, and I looked up, and I seen the other birds flying around us, circling around us. Dude, I had never felt that helpless in my life.
Hmm.
And I looked over at the sergeant major because I had told him, I said, man, I don't think it's a good idea that we fly to Bagram. And I just had a feeling, man. And he looked at me and he said, it'll be all right. I said, how in the fuck is it going to be all right? We don't have any weapons. And the fucking aircraft on the ground can't even fire the minigun anymore because the fucking aircraft ain't fucking running,
Hmm.
you know? So The only weapons we had is what the crew chiefs had. I mean, and they got it fixed. They figured out, but the people protecting us are the ones that are fucking working on the aircraft. So, I mean, that whole situation really kind of fucked me up for a while,
Yeah, because I can see that being overthought a billion times.
Oh, yeah.
That, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and that was one of the things, and it was really weird, right? So my dreams always started where they where it ended at, where they got the plane fixed and flew off, but that's not whatever happened in the dreams. In the dreams, we always had to evade and get out until we could get picked up, and sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't in the dreams, which never happened. None of that ever happened. They fixed the aircraft, we flew it home, and a little bit of the landing gear was fucked up, and on we went. But
But the situation and the environment surrounding it, it wasn't like you were on an LA beach.
no, no,
Like,
I remember it, dude. Still to this day. I mean, we were in between. We were in a valley, so I mean, there was high ground all around us. And
when were you in Kandahar? When was that?
that was in 2002 or 2003. It was either end of 2002 or beginning of 2003.
Yeah, because when we went to Kandahar, were you guys getting mortared daily
Oh yeah,
when you were there?
all the time, every day.
Yeah.
I had so we were going to Chow, and this was after we started having sea rats. They got the Canadians brought in the sea rats, and we were walking back, and a rocket came in, and I remember I remember cussing at my fucking drill sergeants because this rocket came in and it hit a generator. I don't know, it was probably 50 yards from me, and I hit the ground, and I remember looking, and I seen this SF guy. I assume he's SF. He had a beard. He took off running away from the rocket, and then I seen a guy in regular army uniform running towards the fucking generator, and I was like, why the fuck is he running towards it? And then I remember laying there thinking, how the fuck are we supposed to yell a distance and a fucking direction? I mean, all I heard was poof. I mean, there was no timing to say 6 o'clock, run. But
it's coming. Get ready.
Yeah, I mean, it happened every day. Every day there was firefights. Every day there was, that was right after the Rangers and the 173rd took Kandahar over. I mean, we didn't have no base power. It was all everybody, little villages is what I called it. Everybody had their own little huddles.
Yeah. When I was there, I've heard about Kandahar later. Later on,
it's a resort.
I was like, what? We had a coffee shop and a little exchange.
Dude, the last time I was in Kandahar, you could have a pizza delivered to your hooch.
No, I was right on the flight line, right behind the MWR tent. So we were right there. So I had the best. The gym, the chow hall was right there. But where we slept was a 500-man tent with about 800 people in the back corner of the base, and all we did was drive them little trucks everywhere, them little Haji trucks.
Yeah, the little Hiluxes. Yep. So was Rocket Bob still trying to hit the tower, the fucking air traffic tower? They'd be walking the damn mortars in. Boo, boo. That guy sitting up there, man, I used to joke all the time. He has to have a fucking case of Depends sent a month because he can't leave, and they're just walking them in, man. Yeah.
I remember we went to this little flea market deal right outside. Now I'm not gonna sound. I'll sound like John Rambo real quick. So we went to the Haji Mart right behind, right outside the wire. So when I was in Afghanistan, I was outside the wire.
There you go.
And I spent $20 on DVDs that didn't make it out of Kandahar.
Well, that was for research. You were trying to find explosives that they were putting in DVDs.
I actually almost bought they had a replica Marine Corps sword, and I was like, how did they get one of these?
You have to ask yourself, where did he get it?
Yeah, like, how did he get it all the way out here in the middle of this field? How'd they get all these DVDs? That's weird.
Yeah, man.
So how do you feel two drunk dudes in a gun room is changing the veteran community?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I have days where I think we're making a difference. So like, I don't know whether if it was from the Contagion Effect or from my show or whatever, but when I seen that Hero Stock had booked um, um, Scotty,
Yeah.
I was like, that's a fucking win because that's what it at least that's for me, that's what it's all about. I don't know, the goals and everything. I'm not going to speak for the Contagion Effect, but for me, that's what I'm here for, is
Mm-hmm.
trying to network and help veterans achieve whatever their dream is, even if it's just to be sane. If that's your dream, if that's your goal, to live a productive normal life, then that's what I'm here for, is to find a way for you to do that. And so days like that, regardless of who did it, I don't care about that. To me, that was a win. But then you have those days where every day is a struggle. You spend 6 hours of editing and trying to catch people's attention just to get people noticed. Um, so with the radio station, one of these things I have to do is I have to go in and I have to document every song that's played at every minute, right? And when you start looking at these stats, you start seeing how many listeners was listening, because that's how you're going to get the sponsors, is what is your reach and shit. And when you
Mm.
see times where, I mean, I had to get to the point where I quit looking at stats altogether, and I hadn't looked at them for many months, other than with the radio station. And you'd see how many 3 seconds. You see this graph, and it's like this many people stopped listening within the first 3 seconds, and then this many people watched for a minute, and then these
Mm-hmm.
people watched for 5, and then nobody watched for 30 minutes. And that type of shit gets to you, man. It does, because without the views and without the people, you don't have no reach. And if that's the case, then I'm not helping nobody. I'm not putting these people in front of faces that could potentially help them. So days like that, I mean, I had to quit looking at the stats with the podcast there for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
because it would get frustrating. And I think also, on that same token, if you're one of those guys that are looking at stats every day, you're on that borderline of becoming that guy that's worried about stats.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a fine balance, because it will fuck you up if it's not going your way, but it can do the opposite too if it's exploding. You feel like you're on top of the world. And I try not to measure the wins. Like, I got more excited when I got on Good Pods. I like that app. I use Good Pods quite a bit. And so, like, your show, I go in there and I'll rate and share your show. I share um, Shadow Mark, and I share the Contagion Effect. Well, I had went on there and I was looking at stats, I don't know, a while back, and dude, I got like fucking excited because the Contagion Effect was ranked like 29th for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's fucking awesome. These guys just started, not, they got like 60 episodes, man. And we were ranked number 1 for military, and I think number 4 for comedy interviews. And like I said, I was more excited about the Contagion Effect, man. I hit Eric up. I was like, dude, are you
Yeah.
guys on Good Pods? And he's like, what's that? And I told him, I said, dude, on there, you guys are ranked like 29th out of 100. I mean, that's pretty fucking good,
Yeah.
you know? And I had been going on. I just hadn't never looked, but I'd go on and I'd rate their show. I'd rate yours, and make a little comment about it, and send it through my feed. And that's, to me, that's a win, man. Is when somebody is benefiting from the show.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I was talking to Jason Steiner the other day, and he was talking about the drop they're having for Hero Stock and
Hmm.
for like apparel and everything.
Hmm.
And I was so excited for their apparel drop.
Yeah.
Like, cause I was like, hey man, let me know, because I was so excited because I could see the potential and how great Hero Stock could be,
Yeah.
and I see everything with the radio station and how epic that could really be to you. If you, it doesn't matter who listens, it matters the people you're playing,
Yeah.
because you are changing that person because you're playing them.
Well, and on the other aspect too, you know, I with the way I went with being BMI, so the way it works, right? I have to pay an upfront licensing fee, and then I have to pay 1.7% of all my gross income. So that comes off the top. And then there's royalties for every time I play a person's song. It's pennies on the dollar for the royalties, which is really fucked up. You know, when I'm looking at, I'm giving 1.7% to the licensing company, but
Hmm.
the guy that worked his ass off to create the song, he's getting 0.0022 cents per fucking song. You know, but at a minimum, at least if nothing else, you know, because I'm not playing their music for an hour. You know, every veterans that I can find is going to be listed on there, and it's going to be unless there's a podcast on, then there will be music playing. And it's like I said earlier, it took me down a road I didn't want to go because now I have to have sponsorship because
Hmm.
I can't afford to do it all myself. You know, um, I'm to where I'm at with the podcast and with covering the radio costs for getting it on the air and everything. But now this is a whole nother level of where I have to be. And you know, I'm paying all the licensing fees and everything up front. But for it to be long term, there's got to be sponsorships to pay, or I'll lose the licensing because there is no gross income. You know,
Hmm.
and but even if nobody listens, you know, at least those artists are going to get paid something. You know, their music's going to at least get some sort of revenue, and I pray that it gets bigger than that. But you know, to me, I look at the small wins. I look at what I can control versus what ifs. You know.
So say I'm sitting out at home, I'm on Facebook, and I see somebody that I know that's trying to break in, but they're not established yet. Could they get their music played?
Hmm. So if they have reached out and they have um, signed with a license, there's three licensing companies. BMI is just one of them. Um,
What if
then
they have zero license?
then all I need is their permission, and I
All
can
right.
still pay them the same thing, you know, whenever their song gets played. Um, but yeah, absolutely. I told Derek if he puts something on recording, I'll put him on there. I
Mm,
don't care. You know, the requirement is that you're a veteran or a son and daughter or husband and wife of a veteran. That's the requirement.
yeah, that's
You
an
know.
easy day then.
Yep.
Because
And
I think there's some folks out there, that I know I see that I've worked with that I know that I think that's a big jump, because they're going from playing, they're posting their own shit on YouTube or on
yeah.
Facebook or whatever. Now they could be put on an app that
Yep.
that you're doing, and they could say, "Go listen to this app," and I'm going to be on there.
Yep. And
Oh,
and
by the
because I
way,
have to I have to record every minute that's played, I can tell them down to the minute of when their particular song is going to be played.
that's awesome. That's
You
awesome. I
know.
don't I don't think you can go wrong with that at all.
Yeah. And you know, again, you know, the big goal is I think if for short term goals is if I could get Operation Encore to come in and I can dedicate a specific show, the Encore show, whatever, for these set of hours where it's just their music, you know, then to me that's another big win, because they're a good sized organization and they're doing some amazing things for veterans. And if in that hour I could throw some Operation Encore commercials and advertisements and places for people to go donate, dude,
Absolutely.
that's helping more than I could ever help, because the connections that they have,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's game breaking, you
Hmm.
know. And they only take like 5 or 6 people a year because of, you know, the work that goes involved. You know, they can't take 100 people, and you know, so again, like you said, somebody that is on the fence, don't know that they have the talent, and I could bring Operation Encore in and they have a show. Maybe they start listening to stuff like that and they discover people that they could reach out to, and that connection could be made.
No, I
You know,
like that. I like that. That brings that actually, I mean, if you're a veteran and you listen to the radio, what is the name of the radio station for everybody?
it is Gunroom Radio.
Okay, I was gonna say, I just wanted to make sure. So it's Gunroom Radio,
Yep,
and I could listen to it, and then I could actually listen to a veteran. And if I'm a veteran and I like their song, I could actually go find them on Facebook, Instagram,
absolutely.
Twitter, and then connect with them right from there.
And you can also, you know, I will at that point be able to link to like their iTunes account and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And from the page, you would actually, you know, when it pulls up their chart and their cover and all that stuff, and in the description, I could place the links for you to go strictly to iTunes and buy their music directly, which helps them even more.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I love everything you're doing. I love the podcast. I love I think the environment and the community, especially Jason, man. Jason Steiner, if you follow him on Facebook, he shares every veteran organization
Yep.
that's great under the sun, and it's so good, refreshing to see it, because there's things that maybe you won't see, like you said, these
Yeah.
little gems that once they get shared on top of shared, it just it forces it out there.
Yep. I'm gonna tell you something funny, man. I've been kind of nervous, you know, ever since he asked me to come up there for Hero Stock and live stream Hero Stock. I've been kind of nervous, man. I'm like doing research and seeing what's going to be the best cell service up there. It's for the internet, and you know, I'm buying special cameras just to put in front of the stage to
Oh,
make sure
that's
that I get
awesome.
different angles and everything else, man. And another reason why I'm going to StreamYard, because I've been using OBS, and
Yeah.
you know, with StreamYard, he'll get much more reach because I can go to multiple places versus OBS is one at a time, you know.
Hmm.
So when I get up there, I'm gonna try to get with him, and I'm gonna put it to where it goes to their YouTube, my YouTube, our Facebooks, you know, everybody that you know we come together and start cross posting, dude. It'll be live streamed. Hero Stock will be live streamed on their page and everything all at the same time.
Well,
And
good. That's good, because I'm going to be there, and that just takes a lot off my chest, because I wasn't going to. I'm there to be there, and if I could have apparel there, but other than that, I just think when I talk to him, I just think there's no other place I would want to be, and I don't like veterans. I don't like other people, and I probably won't even like all the music. But the feeling of being around veterans, the feeling
yeah,
around kicking it and hanging it out, all the things we love, all the things we hate are the same things.
yep, yeah,
And but when I know I could just be around veterans, like, I'm glad I know a couple people
yeah.
that are going to be there. And then I just think it's going to be an amazing time, and just the experience of it is going to be good.
I haven't told him yet. So like before the shows all start and everything during the day, I'm gonna pull like Eric's coming in, you're coming in. I'm gonna pull all these people that we see, and I'm
Hmm.
gonna get y'all on there at because I told him, I said, he told me, he said, you want like a booth to set up to sell your merch? And I'm like, I don't have any merch. I mean, I have a couple t-shirts that I've designed and I wear for myself, and this hat that I created that I wear, but I don't have
Hmm.
any merch to sell. And he's like, oh, okay. I said, all I need is a table and power. If you could provide me that, I'm good.
Hmm.
So I plan on pulling you and Jason and all these people in that's coming. Eric says he's coming, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna bring all y'all in, man, and we're gonna talk on the radio and
Oh,
be
absolutely.
live streaming and everything. So
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I just think it's a the event itself, especially the opportunity you'll be able to pitch the app to everyone.
yeah,
Excuse me, the radio station,
yeah,
and then will the radio station be covering it
yeah,
besides YouTube?
yep. It'll go onto the radio station, um, all the Facebooks that cross post with me, and YouTube. And if they've got a YouTube, it'll go to their YouTube too. And yeah, that should be about it.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, man. And
It's
just
gonna
think
be a
of just
real
think of the
fun
amount
time.
of veterans that can't get there that will be able to, at least see the music and feel the atmosphere. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the I want it to be good. So he's already talking about doing it next year.
Mhm.
But like just it to not just as good as he thought last year went. This year he's planning on being better.
Yeah.
Just by the time this year comes, it's exploding, and there's more veterans getting involved, more people connecting because the only people that wouldn't want to go are either lazy turds that they don't want to go,
Hmm.
or the number one thing that we love isolation.
Yeah.
So if you can break away from that isolation and make it there, I think it's a beautiful thing.
I do too, man. And you know, I'm hoping just random people even come up. I plan on putting a little banner up, that says Gunroom Radio and something, to maybe attract some people to come up and just have random people to talk to. You know, that's
Absolutely.
that's what I'm going for, man. Is to live stream and hang with veterans. I mean, I can't think of a better. Well, and it gives me the opportunity. I'm going to stop and see my dad's grave because I'm originally from Lincoln, so
Oh,
um,
okay.
it kind of gets me a chance to go back home and that too. But hero stock is the main reason. You know.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It rarely am I excited about something that I'm not a part of or have nothing to really do with. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like something that's real, just like naturally cool to be excited about going.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. So there's another one too, and I had him on last year, and I'm gonna have him on again here in the next month or so. But they have what's called Vetapalooza, and it's
Okay.
similar to Hero Stock. It's here in Missouri, so it's a little bit closer to you.
Okay.
And I got to make sure the dates because I'm already committed to go to Hero Stock, and if the dates don't stop it, I'm gonna go to Vetapalooza too. So you're more than welcome, and he has all veteran bands that come in. It's the exact same types of things. They usually have a semi truck show that they open it up. He brings in um, barbecue relief. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They are
Mm-mm.
so they're a non-profit organization that doesn't help just veterans, but they're all veteran. Most of them are all veterans that are running it,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to places like hurricanes and natural disasters, and they bring all their stuff down there, and they just start cooking and handing out food for
Oh
everybody. So
wow.
yeah, and so last year they did a class for like 8 veterans, and me and my buddy got selected to go. And dude, it was like a 5-hour class on how to grill and how to smoke, and I learned so much shit, dude. And the food was absolutely amazing.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
incredible.
yeah. So and they provide all the meat. All the meat's donated to them, and they provide all they have their own seasonings. That's how they fundraise it. They sell their own, rubs and stuff like that. But it's a great organization. They're usually there, and they cook for everybody too. Um, Last year it was sponsored by Budweiser. I don't know. I think it was Budweiser. I don't know if they'll do it this year, but they were providing drinks for everybody in the VIP. So if you bought VIP tickets, you got free beer, and it was a good day, man. It was a good time. We
That
took a
that
tent up
sounds
there
like,
and
yeah.
camped and called it a day. And just they brought in these two massive cranes and had American flags that were like 50 feet long, man, just waving, dude. It
Oh,
was,
that's so cool.
yeah, dude. I'll have to repost some pictures because I
Yeah,
took some
that's
some videos of it. They're just buried in my Facebook page, but yeah, it was.
that's
And I picture Hero Stock's going to be at a larger level next. That was the first year Vetapalooza ever did it. Was last year, so but he is going to do it again this year. He just hasn't released the dates yet, and but that's part of Movet Outdoors. That's who puts that on, and man, it was like you said, it was great times, just hanging with veterans. I mean, I met so many people there that I still associate with, and it's funny because the Facebook chat from the barbecue relief on Messenger is still going on. People are still a year later saying, "Hey, I just did what you taught us a year ago," and they're showing pictures of what they smoked and everything else from a year ago. So I mean that's
that's
pretty awesome.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. But I don't want to take your whole night away. I don't want to take your whole day away. But what can you leave us with? What can you leave us with besides war excuse me, gun room radio? What is happening May 1st? So everyone knows, because I'm excited
So
about it, because I'm already in it.
May 1st is when May April 30th is when the licensing will go into effect. So May 1st is when the music content will slowly start ramping up, and that's when we'll be licensed, and there won't be no copyright issues with me airing their music. So that's the
Where
big thing that will happen. Hopefully, by then, also all the commercials and everything will be built for all these organizations that I've interviewed. Um,
mm-hmm.
you know, I'm gonna I'm gonna put the ads together, then I'll send it to them and make sure they're okay with it, and then that'll be their commercial. And they're not being charged for any of that stuff. This is just about getting their information out, and then from there it's about trying to get sponsors, man. So if anybody is a business owner, and I'm doing it as a donation basis, I'm not setting a price because I know what the economy is like. I was a business owner, so I do know what's tight, and I will, whatever you can donate, and I will match time frames based off of what you can donate. So you know um, but that's to the point we'll have to be at. We'll have to have sponsors, and you don't only get just the gunroom radio. I'm going to add you into sponsorship for the podcast too. So I mean, we average, I don't know, somewhere around 12 to 1500 downloads a month, I guess is probably where we're at. We're at somewhere around 50, 60,000 reach on Facebook, and whatever the gunroom radio grows and builds into. And I blame you for this, but now I'm on Instagram, and
Hey, you got to get busy with it, man. I'm telling you, I'll tell you what, you got to find these people.
yeah,
They're either in a small group, or like all y'all, all the Nebraska folks, all the people, everyone in these communities. You got to find them on
yeah,
Facebook.
you do,
I wasn't on Facebook for a year. I might go post a picture, some silly shit, but
yeah.
I didn't even go on Facebook. And now I go on Facebook, I see all this other stuff, and then but Instagram. But now it's like you have to find these veterans, and half of them won't even get on, and that's the problem. They won't
Yep.
even get on social media.
So last two things I'll leave you with, right? And this is the two things I've noticed here recently. So one of them is, if you download our app on Apple or Google, it doesn't matter. It's Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Our name of our podcast. That's the name of the app. It's free. You don't have to set up no accounts and nothing, and you have full access to the Gunroom Radio. You can plug it into your car and drive down the road and listen to it. You can listen to every episode from our podcast. You can reach our resources page. It has every single place, our event page, everything, all of our little advertisements, all that good stuff, right? The other thing is,
Well, I'm
if you're
glad
a
you
veteran
said
out
it.
there, if
I
you
was
are a
like,
veteran out there that is struggling and you're on social media, let me give you some advice that has helped me, and I think it will help a lot of other people. Stop Googling and searching and interacting on Facebook over government and disputes. Don't post anything. Don't respond to nothing. Stop watching the 3-second reels and 30-second TikToks and all that stuff, and watch how your algorithm changes. And if you start searching veteran stuff and organizations, you're within a few weeks, your algorithm will stop showing you all this negative stuff in the world. I'm not saying it's not true or it's not bad, but if you're already struggling, you don't need that shit. Change your algorithm, start seeing positive things, and you will start seeing organizations that you've never heard of start popping up in your Facebook feed just because you changed your search. That's the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself. Stop being focused on these 30-second TikToks and Facebook reels. I don't advertise on them anymore. I don't post. I don't even have a TikTok. I think I'm banned actually from life on TikTok, but I think it's negative and it's bad because it takes your focus and it brings it here. And let's face it, man. You know, I know when I was struggling, I was all over the fucking place. I couldn't focus on anything longer than 10
yeah,
seconds.
and if you get caught up in the wrong ones, I'll be honest, I get caught up in the wrong ones. Like, and I get caught up in the veteran ones. I watched this veteran TikTok the other day where you probably seen it's gotten more viral about the cop and the guy's about to kill himself,
Mm-hmm,
but he's a veteran. He talks him down. He's on the phone with the VA. That's who the guy is.
mm-hmm.
And he's a veteran. He's begging him not to do it and everything. I'll watch that like 5 times and then feel like a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah, what you put in is what you get, man.
yeah.
And
Your,
especially if you're dealing with anything.
your algorithm is going to show you what it's like. So here's what a lot of people don't know, and I know we're running late, but
No, do you?
there's these people that are big out there, right? These conservatives and liberals. Do you know most of them have 2 Facebook accounts? And in one account, they only search liberal stuff. And in the other account, they only search right wing stuff so that they can get in the algorithm both things coming so they can tailor their main podcast or whatever to piss off whatever group they're against by seeing both things and reporting on it, I guess, because they're journalists. But you know, and that tells you right there how powerful the algorithms in these social medias have been. If you only search for podcasts for veterans, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, your feed will change to those things, and you will slowly stop seeing all the Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump shit. I don't hardly see any political stuff on my shit anymore. You know, I tell everybody I am politically homeless.
So my 20 hours on Fox News a day is not good.
Yeah, it's probably not good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I watch Fox News every morning while I'm waking up. You know,
Absolutely. I tell
but
you what, when you don't watch the news for a day, life is just better.
it is.
It's just because you're not mad or frustrated or pissed off about what else is going on. You're worried about your own shit.
Yeah, I
So
can't fix it.
it's actually better because you're more present in your own life.
You know, if I get beat down watching the news, how much effort am I going to put into this podcast to try to help veterans? Because I'm already, if I can't even help myself at that point anymore, because I'm already pissed off. You know.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, download our app, Two Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Google, Apple, check out our podcast. It's everywhere. You can just Google it. Webpage is twodrunkdudesinagunroom.com. That's basically what the app is. It's just linked to it. And
I'm glad you said that, man. I was sitting there like an asshole, like I said, in my shop cleaning up when I was outside, listening to the webpage. So now
yeah,
I can go download. Now I can download the app.
Yep, you download the app and just hit a button and it'll start playing, man.
Two
So
drunk dudes in a
yep,
gun room
yep,
app.
yep.
Look on Apple. Look on Google, and then listen to Gunroom Radio.
Absolutely, man.
Content will pick up after May 1st.
Yep.
Done. I appreciate you having for coming on the show. I appreciate for having me on your show. For those
I
that
appreciate
haven't
you inviting me,
listened
man.
yet, make sure. And I appreciate it. And for everyone else, if you haven't listened to Drunk Dudes in the Gun Room before, go check it out. You're missing out. Remember, every second counts.